I'm sure you'll have a chance to meet people up there as well. Well, I mean, when you visit her, you'll probably
Yeah.
yeah. While you're there, though, you'll get to see there's other people who live there. But don't they have like a common room that you can go out to talk to people? Like a living room? Yeah. I'm sure she gets used to it. Right. As she gets used to it, she'll probably figure out. She goes out to eat there. She goes here.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Welcome to the 2024 ASM Mission Trip Information Meeting. Sorry that we couldn't have it in person. There has been some hurdles in order to do that. We will have an in-person meeting between Thanksgiving and Christmas. I was not able to make that happen once the shepherds made their final decision on approving us going on this mission trip. But I'm super excited because Damon and I have been praying about this and thinking about this for over a year now. It all started back in Colorado Springs when we took our teams to the Eastside Church of Christ, and we did some work for some missionaries going to the reservation. We did some work around Colorado Springs, and we had a great mission trip. But we came away with some information about Ciudad de Angeles. And I know I say that very poorly. For those of you that can speak a little bit of Spanish, you know that's not great pronunciation. However, it means City of Angels, and it is a Church of Christ run orphanage, children's home, where the Eastside Church of Christ there in Colorado Springs, they're an anchor church for. There are 8 churches of Christ that are actually anchor churches for this children's home. It's been there for over 20 years. So David and I hatched a plan. We always like to go to New Mexico one year, and then the following year, we go with the New Mexico youth group to a mission trip away from New Mexico, because we want our group and their group to go together somewhere, because their group doesn't get to go on a mission trip when we come to them. So it's something that we really enjoy, that we also have struggled with finding good works in one place for a bunch of people, and we finally found that. Now, it's a few miles away in the city of Cozumel, Mexico, which is an island. But it is a great opportunity for our students, I believe, even if it is an expensive one, because they're going to see the world from a different lens. They're going to be able to serve both with manual labor and with working with kids. Our group loves to work with kids. And so this opportunity, I know a lot of them will really get a lot out of. They will be a blessing to those children there at the children's home at City of Angels, and it's going to be a really cool trip. Now, because it's a really big trip, a really expensive trip, it's going to be a lot of planning on the front end. And so the commitment to go next summer is going to have to be made by January. So I have my information here, but essentially that's how it came about. Damon and I have been just thinking of different things that we can do, and we came across this, and the more information we got about it, the more we loved it. I've been to a meeting in Georgia with all of the other team leaders. There are 19 total groups going over the course of next year. 15 of those groups have been to City of Angels before. And that's really cool for me to know, because that means that they're invested in this work. Many of the people that were at this meeting also sponsored children. They sponsor them so much per month to pay for fees in school and maybe some clothes and help even maybe with some expenses after high school as they go to technical school or college or whatever they're doing, because City of Angels goes from small kids that they take in that they know have a low chance of adoption, but come from really poor backgrounds and situations, whether it's abuse or just abandonment or just bouncing around the system. And so they look for these kids that they can get when they're younger and raise all the way into adulthood. And that's past high school. They have transition homes where they're on campus in a transition home where they're older, and they help them into college and transition from there into adulthood into their job. So they're really invested in these kids, wanting to take kids that were cast aside or that didn't have parents or that had really just a terrible string of luck early in their life, and they take them all the way to making them productive citizens. So this is something that obviously is dear to my heart, as you guys know, Cassandra and I's heart for fostering and adoption. And so this trip is something that I'm really, really looking forward to. I'm looking forward to getting invested in this work and potentially seeing if we can form a relationship. We will see. It could be a one-off mission trip. It could be something that we, if it goes well, do every so often as we go down the line. So trip overview. I'll get to a lot of specifics in a second, but that's why we're going. That's how it came about. If you have any questions on that, let me know. But the trip overview is, like I said, we will be traveling to Ciudad de Angeles, a children's home in Cozumel, Mexico. And we're going to be working on their campus. We're going to be teaching their kids how to speak English. We're going to be doing activities and maybe science experiments and reading with them and swimming with them. Like, there's a ton of investment that we get to make in this place. And so we will be working directly with the kids. In fact, the directors who came over from Mexico to Georgia to address all the team leaders, they basically said, if you're standing around, then you're not doing what they want you to do. They want you invested, even if it's 2, 3, 4 people per child or whatever job we're doing. They want us there working hands-on every second that we are on campus. They call the teams that go down there the lifeblood of Ciudad, and which is really cool for me to know, because it's not just us going down there for a week and then coming home and then there's nothing that is impacted or changed, because that is one of the things that I worried about, and they reassured everybody. And the more people I got to know there, the more stories I heard about specific kids. And when I talked to the directors, they talked about the stories of kids, asking about the people that would come down there and how they remember all of these individuals that come down and form these relationships. And so this is a good work that's been going on for over 20 years. It is Church of Christ affiliated, which is really cool to me. And it's something where we get to go down and help teach, and we get to just work with them directly. So that's really cool. You can see on the, I have a information sheet that I will be linking in the description, but I will also be sending out the link in the email that I'm going to be sending out accompanying the link to this video. It talks about some of their background. It gives the website, but one of the things that I pulled out from their mission, it says Ciudad de Angeles is a children's home on the island of Cozumel, Mexico. They provide a safe and healthy environment based on Christian principles. The home accepts young children who have been orphaned, abandoned, or abused, and gives them a permanent home on the Ciudad campus. And so as they've been going strong for over 21 years, like I said, the director's been there for 6. And one of the really cool things that I learned is even though the government in the state where Cozumel is located has been very difficult in allowing them to take in kids from the state, they have, different states have different directors over their DIF is what they call our DHS programs. But that state director is not working with them very well, and therefore they're not getting a lot of kids from there. So they went on a long journey, and recently in the last year or two got nationally certified. And so now they're bringing in kids from all over the different states in Mexico, and they already have 6 new children, and by next summer may have another 10. And so that's really cool, because a lot of their students have grown and gotten into high school and college and transition age. And so they're really looking for more children to be able to bless and raise in Christian principles and make them productive citizens. So it's a sustainable work that has been going on for a long time and has been built, and they've taken the steps to continue in the future. So I feel like this is a trip and a work that I'm excited to get involved with. So that's kind of a little bit of an overview. Let's get into who can go. This trip is an Adams student ministry trip. However, in the past, our mission trips to Mexico or to New Mexico or even to Colorado when we've gone, I've allowed friends to go. And so on this trip, it's one of those things. If a student has already been associated with the ministry, their parents don't have to be members, but I've gotten to know them. I know their family. If I'm comfortable because they've been coming to youth group consistently, their family doesn't have to be a member. So when I say friends, I mean friends that I may know or they've gone on a trip before, but they go to church elsewhere and I don't really have a relationship with them. And so if they're involved with Adams Student Ministry, they're absolutely allowed to go. If they are a student that I just know because they've come one time to one event, that's different, because if we're taking kids to Mexico, I want to have a relationship with that family. If your student has a friend that's just like, I would love to go on this trip, and they want to get involved with Adams Student Ministry and they make that commitment, that's something we can talk about, and they're going to be involved and I get to know their parents and they're consistent all the way throughout the year. We'll see. But at this time, I want to keep it to where that it's families and kids that I know. Adults, I want as many adults as possible to go. I know in the past when we were planning this, I've had conversations with some of you and I said, I don't know how we're going to be able to divvy up the sponsors on this trip. Well, if adults want to go, you are more than welcome. The more I research this trip, the more I want to have adult supervision. My goal is to have at least one adult for every 2 kids on this trip. When you're going overseas, especially for the first time to a new place, I think it's really important for us to have that adult supervision. And I'll go over some of the roles some of the adults can play a little bit later. And I'm also inviting adults in the congregation. If they're an adult in the congregation, they are more than welcome to go, and I would love to have them come as a sponsor and as a team member. Lastly, the students' ages, that is important. This is a rule that the City of Angels employs, and they said, so current 8th graders, if they're an 8th grader in school right now and above, are all eligible to attend this trip. And that means they will be going into 9th grade next summer. But if your student is a current 8th grader, they're eligible to go on this trip. Some exceptions can be made if a parent goes for 6th and 7th graders that are current 6th and 7th graders. And so if you are a parent and you're like, I really want to go on this trip and I really want my 6th grader to go on this trip or my 7th grader to go on this trip, that is possible, but you have to be on the trip. And that's their rule, not even mine. But I've molded over. I almost didn't allow 6th and 7th graders anyway, but I decided I want more adults and more kids to go. And so if you're willing to go as a parent, a 6th and 7th grader can go. Okay, so that's who can go. If you have any questions on that, let me know. But if it's something, if a student signs up, I expect them to be involved. If they sign up for this trip and they're wanting to go, I expect them to be involved in our Wednesday stuff, involved with just the youth group as much as possible, because I want them committed and invested in us, especially if we're going to go on that long trip, because I have to have that relationship with them. Okay, here's the most important info. You guys have been waiting for it. It's so the trip dates are June 15th through the 22nd of 2024. We will leave early morning on June 15th. We will probably leave fairly early in the morning on the 22nd. The plane ride, we will fly out of Tulsa more than likely, as I've looked into even already. Driving to Dallas isn't going to really help us on the bottom line. So we'll fly either from Tulsa to Dallas or Tulsa to Houston and then on to, Cozumel. It's not a super long flight. It's still in the central time zone, if I remember correctly. And so there's not going to be a lot of jet lag or anything crazy. It's just a flight. But as you know, flights can be fairly pricey, which along with our housing and food and our taxi service, and there's a lot of just logistics and supplies. And so this trip's not cheap, but I've come up with a price that I think is fair and also hopefully cheap enough that as many students as possible can go. And that's why we're also starting now to raise money. So the cost is $1,200 plus the cost of a passport. If they don't already have a passport, that's something you're going to have to do. But this includes all costs related to the trip. The only costs that I'm not including in that $1,200 would be maybe food in the airport on the way and on the way back. That's usually, I think that'll probably be one meal on the way there, one meal on the way back. If we're there in the early morning and they want to go to Starbucks, that's on them. That's on you guys to decide how much money you send, but it should be about a meal. Also, if they want to buy souvenirs, if we go into the village one day or just where they sell some souvenirs. I've never been there. I'm told they have shops and things, and you have a street market and things of that nature that you can go buy some souvenirs. They'll need money for that as well. But the $1,200 covers all food, all taxi service, all flights. Even on Wednesday, when we have a special excursion, that's our free day is Wednesday, the cost covers that. And so as I looked at it, and I actually talked to people on this trip that are also doing trips. The cheapest that I found anybody was going was $1,150. And generally it went to up to $1,500 as far as what people were charging. Now that depends on, the level of lodging, the comfort level of everything and what they're doing and maybe their excursions. I'm trying to do it as cheaply as possible while still being safe, while still being together and still having a good trip. And so $1,200 I think is very doable. And here's how that breaks down. For adults, you're going to have to come up with the $1,200 on your own. However, your students, if they are committed to the fundraisers that we do as a youth group and they are participating consistently, then $700 of the $1,200 will be covered. Now, if they miss a fundraiser, that's going to cut down from that $700. But as long as they participate, they help, they put in the work, there is $700 available right on the top. That money's going to come from a few different places, or a couple different places along with, but we are not actually asking for any money from the shepherds. We do not want this to, with our budget situation, we don't want to tap into a budget that's already a little bit taxed. And so we're going to do this trip separate and apart from that. So if you're worried about the cost of the trip and where that $700 is coming from, it will not be coming from general funds. It will not be put in our budget. It will be something that is $700 available to your student that wants to go, but it is not going to hurt our church finances budgetary wise. So the other $500, as talking to Levi, who's led some of these trips, and talking to other people who have led these trips, the other $500 is we're asking your student to raise that $500. Now, I can give ideas on how to raise it. I can, ask members, hey, if we can set up a list of, hey guys, if you have jobs around the house or jobs that you're going to hire out anyway, please consider using our teams. That $500 over a 6 month span is less than $100 a month. And so I think that is very doable. It's just under $85 a month, I think. And so if they're saving allowance, or they're saving by doing odd jobs, or if they're asking their neighbors to do some leaves, like, they can raise that money faster than they think, because there are people who are willing to hire teens and support them. So keep that in mind. The $500 will have to be raised on their own. When I've done these fundraisers in the past, I wrote letters to family and friends and maybe churches that I had connections to, and you'd be surprised with the generosity that people would have. I bet some of you have Facebook connections enough to put it out there on Facebook. Hey, Johnny is going to Mexico on a mission trip to serve kids at a children's home and to do manual labor at a children's home, and he has to raise $500. Would anyone like to sponsor him? And you just put it out there. They'll do some work for him, or say you can just, commit to funding that trip. I don't know the laws and rules on GoFundMe's or things like that, but I do believe that raising $500 on GoFundMe is something you can do. Make a GoFundMe, send it to your friends. Say, hey, I'm doing this. Get creative with it. Have your students get creative with it. It could just be, that you write, letters or cards to people and say, hey, sponsor me for writing these in cards of encouragement to people in nursing homes. They start to do this service project and they're asking people to support that service project through money to support their mission trip. I don't know. That's just off the top of my head. We can come up with stuff together if they're struggling to raise that $500. I don't think cost should be a significant factor. At least my hope is it's not a significant factor as to why anybody can't go, because you have time to raise the money. Your kids are capable of doing work for people if they're willing to put in the work. And over half of that cost can be covered right off the top just by serving inside the church with youth group sponsored fundraisers. Some of those fundraisers we've already thought about. We're not going to just be doing a spaghetti dinner and asking our people in our church family, just, hey, come give us money for the mission trip and eat a spaghetti dinner. Like, we want to make this fundraisers where we're not just trying to tap into the same source of money over and over again. So we're going to be raising money by doing other things. So keep that in mind, again, because we're trying to be mindful of church finances and people donating to our church and keeping those missions and goals at the forefront. And then we are doing this mission trip with the support of the shepherds, with the support of our missions team. But we're not trying to take away from maybe some of those, robbing Peter to pay Paul type stuff. Because I know this youth ministry is supported and people will definitely support this mission trip, but we don't want to do it at the expense of our normal contribution. I hope I worded that well. Signups are going to be due on December 31st. I would really, really, really prefer that it be before that. That's like absolute last date possible. And if you do it by then, you're going to have to get your passport done in 2 weeks. Like, go get the picture, get it applied for, get all of that done, because you cannot go, or your student cannot go without a passport. When I get back from Thanksgiving break, I'm already going to be starting on my passport. Mine's expired by 15 years. So I'm going to start having to take the steps to do that as well. And so as you get signed up, we'll start doing more information on passport, how to get it done, what you got to do, checking those boxes and things of that nature. I think that is the last thing I wanted you to know that's important is you don't have to know Spanish. I'm probably going to download an app on my phone and try to remember all the Spanish that I've already forgotten, as I took a bunch in high school. But you don't have to know Spanish. We're going to have translators on the trip in our groups. This trip will involve our group. It will involve Damon's group. And there's going to be a group from Georgia that's kind of guiding us, as it is our first time to take the trip. And they've been leading this trip for years and years. And they're actually from the church that started the mission in the first place. So, okay, I'm going to try to get through the rest of this fairly quickly, but I'm trying to be thorough so we have a good idea of what we're doing, why we're doing it, and how we're doing it. All right, so housing, transportation. Don't think we're going to stay in some really rundown huts or something that's really difficult, or tents or whatever. We're going to get some Airbnbs that will house 10 plus. Every Airbnb that we get, once I get enough people signed up, I can go ahead and secure that Airbnb, and we're trying to get them very close together. We want them to be 10 plus people, and all of them will have adults in them. So it's not going to be like students staying that. I know you know that. I wanted to reassure students will not be staying by themselves, even if houses are adjacent. We'll have adults and students in every house. And this is good too, because these houses will have kitchens and things that we can use to cook. And they'll have those bigger Airbnbs will have good gathering places for our students for evening devotionals. So Damon's group and our group can combine and do what we love to do on mission trip, and that's sing and do devotionals and just hang out together. So we will be, as far as transportation goes, what most people use on the teams that go down there is a taxi service. Now, when you think taxi, don't think like an army of 10 taxis taking 40 people, 4 in each car. I mean, I think the taxis as described to me will hold more than that, vans and such that are able to transport multiple people. I already have names of people that they have used in the past that get your schedule. They know exactly where you need to be and when. They have their people there to pick you up, there to drop you off, there again when you need to be picked up and go back to the house, etc. So it's the people that I've talked to, It is a good thing to use the taxi service. They love it. It's really well done, and that is what we're going to use. Didn't want to rent cars because I know people can drive a little crazy, as I've been to Mexico before, and I would not be comfortable driving a car in that traffic unless I had a little practice. So we are going to be using a taxi service for transportation, and I've been assured that it is reliable and pretty easy. Okay. So as I said, adults are needed. Cassandra and I are both going. I'm trying to get as many adults to come with us because, well, I love you guys. And our students need you there. Our students thrive when more adults are involved in this group. Our students thrive when they have more supervision and more relationships with the adults. So, saying that, there are some specific jobs that I need done. And one of that is going to be our basically food planning and shopping and cooking coordinator. That team is going to have, I would think, at least 3 people. 3 people is about what I've been told is a good team that are of cooks or of food planning, whatever you want to call this team, as they'll have time to shop for groceries during the day. They have grocery stores there. They even have a Sam's there on the island. And so we have resources to go buy the food and to prepare the food. And so if you're on that team in the mornings, instead of going to do manual labor at the children's home, you'll actually be going to get the food, prepare the food for lunch, and make sure you guys have everything you need. And if you get done, just go hang out and relax and talk to each other. And so you guys, for putting in all that time and effort, might have a little bit more downtime. But in the afternoon, after lunch, on the days that we go see the students, which is Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, you guys will not have the responsibility at night of cooking dinner because we cook it there at the children's home. And our group is going to do one, Damon's group is going to do one, and the Georgia group is going to do one. And then on Friday night, we'll come back and probably eat a meal out. And Wednesday is our free day. So you guys will actually get to go to the children's home and work with the kids and develop those relationships. So you guys get the good part of the service as you're serving in the morning. You're serving our group with the food planning. So I need that team. Translators, at least one. The more the merrier. Because if we go in different directions ever, you always want a translator. Other groups are going to have translators. Damon said he shouldn't have any problem getting at least 1 or 2. So if we have 1 or 2 translators, we should be good to go there. I would love a nurse or a doctor to go. And so if you are one of those, that would be great because I coached and I took care and prevention of athletic injury, and I can, do the basics. But just like when Kai dislocated his knee at at church, I'm not a medical professional, and I cannot give him that care. Now, a nurse or a doctor would be great, but they also have adequate emergency care there that is reasonably priced, I've been told. But I would prefer to have somebody that has those expertise. It's not necessary, but it would be really good if we had that. Those are the main jobs I can think of now. Oh no, social media coordinator. You will actually have access to the Ciudad Facebook page while you're there, as well as the Adams Facebook page, and you'll be asked to take a ton of pictures, to make post about the trip, to make sure our members know what's going on so they can see the good works that are happening and the relationships that are forming, and just to update them, and so their parents that don't go can see that their students are good to go. And speaking of that, the students will have their cell phones at least part of the days. While they're working, they won't have them. But as we lead up to the trip, you'll have to look into your cell phone carrier to see what you have to do. But they should be able to take their cell phones and be able to use them to text and call if you're not going. So you can be assured that communication will happen with your students while you're on this trip. So you don't have to be wondering or worrying about them being so many miles away in Mexico and not being able to get a hold of them. So if you have any other questions, or if you think you know of another job that we need and you're an adult and you would love to fill that role, let me know. Okay, so what are we doing? This is the last thing because I've already gone 30 minutes. Goodness. Okay, I've already kind of alluded to all of this, but on Sunday, we actually get to, we get into town on Saturday. We'll go to the children's home will get settled in our houses. On Sunday morning, we go attend one of the two congregations there on the island. And we, as all of the students that are in the homes with their house parents, they're all expected to be in a service, right? The director and this ministry expects the house parents to take their kids to church, which is awesome, and we're thankful that they do that. But it's also a good opportunity for us to go experience worship in another culture, even if it is a Church of Christ. It is a different culture, so I think that'll be pretty interesting, and I'm excited about that. So Sunday we'll have two opportunities of that. We'll also have opportunities at the children's home to spend time together, but our work generally starts on Monday. Sunday could change a little bit in the afternoon. I'm still waiting on some information there, and we got to create our schedule / itinerary. But on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, the schedule is roughly the same. You get up, you get ready, eat breakfast, then the taxis take you into Ciudad in the morning to the children's home. You all meet together, and the director kind of gives you a 10-minute time of prayer and debriefing on. They like to tell you what's going on and what they do at the children's home. They like to inform you and make sure you understand even the opportunities you might have to support these kids after you leave. And at about 9:30, you start working. And whatever job they have, we won't know until closer to the time in which we get there. So as our trip approaches, we may have a list of jobs that we're expected to do, and we can plan accordingly. But right now, we don't know. But starting around 9:30, we will start working together on projects there on campus. That lasts till between 12:30 and 1. And we go back and have a late lunch. Lunch should be ready because we have a cooking team, a food planning team that is going to have that ready for us. We eat lunch. We're going to have time to relax, to play some games together, just chill, and then head back to the children's home around 3 to 3:30. The kids at that point will be getting home from school. They'll still be in school even in June when we're there. Their schedule's a little bit different than ours here in America. So then the first thing we'll do when we see them, we'll probably meet them on the first day, obviously, but you split up into groups, and we're teaching 3 different levels of ESL learning. So we're going to teach them English, and they will develop curriculum before we go. When I say we, it's all of the teams together are working on this curriculum, and we will implement it week at a time. And there's different levels. You have the ones that are just beginning, you have the intermediates, and you have the older ones that you'll just be having conversations with. And we will be working with different groups and different levels. Generally, as you get older, into adults, you're going to be having a lot of conversations with the older kids. Maybe our teens are going to be with kind of the intermediates, right? And our high school kids. Maybe our middle school, well, not our middle schools, but like our 8th and 9th graders and such might be with the youngers. And so we'll split it up there. We'll have adults at all 3 as well as the other groups. And we'll teach them English. We also will then, our job is actually to plan some activities for the evening, whether it's they said even science experiments or arts and crafts or big group games. Those are the things that you do after we teach them English. And so we'll have some cool opportunities to interact with them then. And then we eat dinner together. We cook and prepare dinner while we're there on Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. Friday, the only difference is you want to leave and get home to pack because you're flying out on Saturday. So you eat dinner on your own. You're not at the children's home quite as long on Friday. But that's the schedule. You were at the children's home on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, almost the entire time. And you get to spend time with the kids, starting a little bit on Saturday, more on Sunday through church and other things, and then a whole lot 4 days the next 5. Wednesday is our free day. I've not decided for sure what that free day will entail right now. I'm potentially leaning towards taking all of our adults and students and doing an all-inclusive private day on the beach. So some of these resorts allow you to do 1-day passes for $60, $65, $70, depending on age and which one it is. And it's a private beach, so you know it's safe. That it's all you can eat, so the kids can eat whatever they want to. It's the kids can get Dr. Peppers and drinks and eat whatever they want and do whatever amenities are at the resort, etc. So it'll be pretty cool. And get a virgin strawberry daiquiri or something, right? Make them feel like they're on the island. But Wednesday is our free day. We may use part of that to go shopping in town for some souvenirs as well. That's a little bit up in the air, but that's kind of our overall schedule for the trip. And that is what we will be doing. Okay, so that's pretty much it. That's the information I think you need right now. But if you have questions, write them down, send them to me, and let me know. Because I want you to, when you sign up, when I give you that link and you go and you're going to sign up, or your student's going to sign up, the last question I put on there is a commitment question. And it's not legally binding, obviously. That's not what that document is. But I say, by typing your name below, you're going to be committing that you are going to go on this trip. And you're committing to not back out, because the planning that goes along with that, some things are non-refundable. And the reason why I ask that is that commitment that you are sealing is a big deal as I plan the trip. But I also want you to have all the information possible before you sign up. So something doesn't come up later and you're like, oh, if I'd have known that, I would have never signed up, because then that puts us both in a bind. So think of questions, ask me questions. I would love to hear them. And lastly, I'm going to pray over the trip, but also this is an opportunity for students and adults alike, and students and their parents would be really cool to go on a trip that could change their worldview. It really could. I've been on some of these trips before, and it is awesome, because no matter how much work you put in to try to help them, you always feel better and you always feel fulfilled. You feel like you are doing what God has purposed you to do. And that goes along with my sermon on Sunday, how we are built to serve others. Because then I believe as you go on this trip, our students and even us as adults, our gratitude levels are going to go through the roof as we see our blessings in real time as we go to this place and see the world through another lens. And it really is. I know people think of Cozumel as this resort city, and it does have that about it. But just like any other place, as you drive to those resorts, you're going through these third world looking parts of a country. And even though Mexico's fairly developed, Cozumel has its third world parts, is the best way I could put it. And so this trip is going to do, I think, just worlds for our kids. I think the environment and the worldview and the work that they do is going to be a blessing to those that they do it for, but also to all of us that go. And so I pray that you will consider and commit to going on this trip to make it just a really awesome endeavor, that we can do God's work in another place that really needs it, and just something that's dear to my heart, working with kids. So I'll be quiet now. I know I ramble. My apologies. Let's pray. Father God, I come to you now just so thankful that we have this youth group that is so greatly supported by our shepherds and by our congregation. Father, we acknowledge the not just financial, but also just mental and encouraging support that we get from everybody in the congregation. You have blessed us with an ability to have a youth group that becomes a family. And Father, I pray that you put it on all the hearts of our adults and students that they would want to go on this trip. I pray that the planning for this trip would go smooth. I pray that you help us to be able to find housing and plane tickets for good prices. I pray that you keep us safe as we go. I pray for Ciudad de Angeles. And I pray that you protect those kids that are there and help them to grow up in you as they raise those children in the Lord. And Father, I just pray for that work and for all the kids that it has impacted positively. And I pray that it continues to do so and that you bless it so richly. Father, I pray for all the trips that are going next year, that those trips will be impactful and that they will not only help do jobs needed to be done around the campus, but they will also make an impact and a lasting just effect on these kids that we're going to work with. Lord, thank you for these opportunities, and just continue to give us opportunities to serve you by serving your people. Father, we love you. Thankful for your son, Jesus Christ. Amen. Okay, thank you for getting this far. And if you have any other questions, please let me know. You have my number. That's all I got. And I will see you soon.